Thank you, everyone. First of all, I'm going to apologise if I'm not as composed as I normally am. I literally just got back from the airport. Everything was delayed. The queues to get my e-visa through were bad. So I've literally had about a minute to throw my things in my room. I've not had a chance to change. So anyway, if I don't perform as well as normal, you know why. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Zoe Upson, and as I was just introduced, I'm the founder of Fact Talent and a women's group called Women Together. Now, I started from very humble beginnings. I'm from a little seaside town called Leigh-on-Sea, and that's a place called Essex, which is just outside of London. I am the youngest of four, and from a very young age, I was this crazy, charismatic, probably a little bit too confident tomboy. And I had older brothers, and I always knew I wanted to be something one day. My mother ran a coach company, which was incredibly male-dominated, and my father was, I don't know if you've seen Only Fools and Horses, but a bit of a Dell boy. He was always doing these odd deals, and I watched him fail and rebuild quite a few times. Unfortunately, my mum lost her business, and we lost everything. We lost our home, we lost everything. We went from a big, nice house to an apartment where my mum was sleeping in the living room. But what I think that has taught me is that you can always rebuild, and it doesn't matter what your start-off is in life, you can create something for yourself. So moving on, some of you will be shocked to hear that I was incredibly naughty in school. I was probably one of the naughtiest girls at an all-girls Catholic school, and luckily I had one lady, one teacher who saw potential in me. And she pulled me aside one day after maybe 100 letters sent to home and the discussions of being expelled, and said, Zoe, if you redirected your energy and put it into something good and focus, we think you could become a leader. And we actually think you're putting your energy in the wrong places. And I did manage to turn it around, and I ended up being the biggest troublemaker in the school to head girl of the school. And that was another part of me that was a huge lesson that, past doesn't define you, and you can always turn any situation around and make it a better one. Then on to university. I did a degree of all things in philosophy, so maybe not so good careers advice from my careers advisor at the time, but it was limited hours, about 4 a week. And I had this idea that I was going to set up a club night. And I ran, whilst at university, club nights. I had no idea what I was doing. I turned up to a venue with a really cheap Bic pen and a notepad, and I just told him that I was a club promoter and that I could bring a student night, and that let me do the marketing, you give us some cheap drinks, you keep the drinks money, and I'll take the door money. And I had this business at university, so that funded myself through university. Ultimately, I knew running around with 21-year-olds wasn't going to be the career of my dreams. So that led me, once I graduated from there, I just was like, I'm going to get any job at all I can get my hands on. And the first job I ever had, and this is where I was born into shipping, was with a company called Spinnaker Consulting. Lots of you may know them, maybe some of you have got your jobs through them, but that was my first job ever out of university. Now, I placed a young broker into a company called FIS, Freight Investor Services, and he turned around to my boss and said, I think you should get this girl while she's young. I think she'll make a good broker. And the next thing I know, I get a call from John B. himself asking me if I would like to come into the office for a chat. Now, I can honestly say I'm going to be really careful how I word this because I know we're at a business conference. But I was taken to a room for a matter of 5 minutes. I was told that I had to be thick-skinned, and I said, well, I have older brothers. I think I'll be okay. And they said to me, well, what if we tell you to off? And I said, I will tell you straight back. And they offered me the job there and then. So that's how I was born into shipping, as a freight derivatives broker. I was the only broker on the floor. And it was amazing and incredible. But I did often look around me and say, why aren't more girls doing this? I'm traveling all over the world. I have all these incredible relationships. Why are there not more girls in shipping? So I took a career gap. I had my daughter. I lived in New York for 3 years. And then I returned back, and Johnny B said, come back, come set up a tanker FFA desk, which I did. But now, being a mum, I'm really having a bee in my bonnet to change this industry, not just for my daughter, but for the future generation of girls. I asked John B if I could do something that's never been done before, and that was to set up an all-female tanker broking desk. As you can imagine, even though I work in headhunting now, that was not successful. I couldn't get girls anywhere for love nor money. The girls who I thought would be fantastic brokers said they did not want to do the job. Lots of girls hadn't heard of the industry. But I managed to meet 2 girls from Shell, you'll know the oil company, and I met with them and we had a glass of Prosecco and we had chats, and they told me about their jobs and their packages. And I said, I'm really sorry, but that is way too good to walk away from. Please don't give up your job at Shell to come join me on this desk. But what was born out of that was a group called Women Together. We just absolutely loved connecting with one another and just having girl time and letting our shoulders down. And that is where Women Together was born. Since then, we invited a few more girls to join us, and this was in 2018. We went from 3 to 6 to 12. We've now got over 1,800 members worldwide. We started off doing 1 breakfast a year to 1 sponsored event a year. And in the last 12 months, I think we've hosted possibly 12 events. We recently did a collaboration with Joe Malone. We've hosted all over the world, Dubai, London, Oslo. We've had mini micro events across Europe, and we really are just getting started. So that is the birth of Women Together, and it's the most wonderful community where women can come along, feel safe, connect, empower one another, and just let their shoulders down and, you know, enjoy being a woman in this incredible industry. Now, I also run a company called FAT, which is Freight and Commodity Talent, and when I was broking, I looked at my daughter, who I never saw because I was working 12-hour days. I only saw her at the weekends, and I thought to myself, what can I do that I can use my connections and I can use my skill set, but actually make change in this industry? Because to make change in this industry, you have to be in a position of power. And I knew that if I worked with business owners, I could make the industry more inclusive, more diverse, improve gender ratios. And we have statistically done that through several companies. And I think we've made quite an impact, not only with the businesses that we work for, but utilizing my platform on LinkedIn to speak out for the industry and to really sort of rally some change. So I'm just checking on the time. I've got 2 minutes left. So that's how Fact Talent was born, and you know, but I haven't done this alone, and I don't know if Sanjam's actually around, but when I started speaking out and sharing my story and trying to advocate for women in the industry, and just trying to actually entice more talent into the space, I'm trying to get business leaders who are more of an old school way of thinking to understand and help Gen Z to allure them into the industry, because for me it's the best one on the planet. But Sanjam was one of the first people to ever recognize me and to post about me and publicate me in the Maritime SheEO publication, and that actually was really a foundation for me. From then I went to being number 69, I think, on the top 100 women in shipping, to then 26, to then 2, which was last year. And it's all these building blocks, and it's all these women around you who support you and are the first ones to recognize you and to notice that you have the potential. And that's now is really, really what I want to give back. You know, I use my LinkedIn platform to lead the way. I have this community of women who I try to empower and encourage them all the time to go for awards. And, you know, and once you do start, I mean, I have a few awards now. Once you do start getting awards, that's when the recognition starts coming, and then you get more speaking opportunities. And, you know, a few years ago, Sanjam posted about me, last year I collected an award here, and this year I'm hosting, and I'm just so honoured and grateful for her work and everything that she does, because I probably wouldn't be here without women like Sandam to support me. So yes, as I was saying, I'm speaking more and more, and that's simply as I want to open the door. I then want to step back, and I really want to see other women fly. That's really my dream. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Yeah, I just wanted to check if there are any questions. I don't think there has come in any from Menti, but if there are any of you that has some questions for Zoe, now is the time to ask.
I don't bite.
No, not so hard anyway.
Not so hard. Any questions?
Yes.
Hi. Hi. Yeah, so for me, since I've relocated to Dubai, which is just over a year now, my career has rocketed. There's a misconception that women are some second-class citizenship or they're not treated correctly. I cannot say anything that is not true. I've never felt more empowered. I've never had as many opportunities. There are so many companies who actually are putting their money where their mouth is and actually being proactive and making these changes. They want to see more women in leadership roles, and they're actually facilitating, not just talking about it. As I say, I've got my daughter Beatrice, and we are two girls together, and we are so safe, and we feel secure, and I feel that the opportunities there are immense, and particularly the surrounding regions. I think Saudi and Qatar will develop even more so off the back of Dubai.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Am I good? Okay, no.